From Denver 7, this is 7 News.
Here's a fact you might not know. For every dollar you spend on your yard, you can get a return of $1.35. And while you may have done a lot of work in the yard this spring and summer, it's really not time to stop. Lyle Fair from the Associated Landscape Contractors of Colorado joins us this morning. Thanks so much for being with us, Lyle.
Thank you, Ann. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you on the show. Let's first talk about that number we just threw at our viewers. For every dollar you put into your yard, you get a return of $1.35. How does that work?
Well, it's a lot like doing a project on your own in your home. You put in the sweat equity, but then the value that comes back is greater than what you put into it. It's the same thing with a beautiful landscape, because there's the intangible aspects of a wonderful living space. You've extended your interior living space.
Kind of boosting the quality.
Exactly.
So what types of things can people be thinking about doing in the fall? Season's not over just yet.
The season's not over for us, certainly. We call them hardscape projects, which don't involve planting plants throughout the winter, really. As long as the weather's warm enough and the ground isn't frozen solid, contractors can install walls, patios, lighting, install decks and pergolas. So there are a number of projects that can be done throughout the season as long as there's good weather.
And some of these projects sound kind of complicated for those people who are typically do-it-yourselfers. Are these projects they can tackle themselves?
It depends on how experienced the do-it-yourselfer is. Yeah, it's really advisable to consult with contractors or at the very least designers, and then be aware of the local codes and your HOA guidelines and so forth. It's much better to ask for permission than forgiveness, because all of these projects, once installed, are not easy to move to the left 3 feet.
No kidding. And they're not easy to completely take out either.
No, they're not. It's very expensive then. Exactly.
So you mentioned the codes, the regulations. People need to check with whatever the agency is in this particular case. Now, for people who may be interested in a patio but don't really like just that plain concrete look, are there some options for them? And I also know we have some pictures that we can talk about as well.
There are many options that really are very beautiful. The brick paver patios are fantastic, and we have a few photos here, including one of a circular pattern.
Oh, there we see it.
It's just gorgeous.
That is beautiful.
There's also natural stone, and then with concrete as well, there's colored concrete, colored and stamped concrete, where it ends up looking like natural stone or brick pavers. So there's a number of options for people.
And let's talk about those options as far as the cost spectrum. Is there one option that's typically cheaper than another?
Well, concrete is a value, but once you get into colored and stamped concrete, really it's a pretty even scale with brick pavers or flagstone that's native to Colorado. When you get into very fancy marbles and granites from Italy, of course the cost is going to go up. So there are a number of choices. Working with a contractor to review your choices and your budget, you can usually come to a very beautiful setting. We're seeing one here that involves an outdoor kitchen and then a pond in the back. All of this could be done in the winter.
Okay.
The nice thing about that is you don't lose time in your yard during the summer, so that in the spring you come in, you finish the project very quickly, and you have that whole summer to enjoy that yard.
To enjoy it, yep.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for coming in this morning and sharing those thoughts with us this morning. Real fast, I know you're not necessarily the contractor who's doing an individual project, but is there an amount of time you can anticipate a project like this taking if you're doing it in the winter, for example?
With good weather, a patio, a waterfall, you could experience 4 to 8 working days to complete a project. And if people do feel overwhelmed by these projects, going to the Associated Landscape Contractors of Colorado website, ALCC.com, and clicking on Find a Pro will link you up with a number of quality contractors and designers.
And you can do your own research then.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Lyle, thank you again for being here this morning and joining us. Some great tips. And again, if you want to get more information, you can find a link to the Associated Landscape Contractors of Colorado on our website at thedenverchannel.com. Just click on the big red TV button.